Let me ask you about another topic here, Ryan. The judge presiding over Donald Trump's classified documents case reprimanded a prosecutor from special counsel Jack Smith's office. All happened during yesterday's hearing on a proposed gag order for the former president. Judge Aileen Cannon told the prosecutor, quote, "I don't appreciate your tone," when the attorney appeared to get exasperated as she questioned the need to modify Trump's conditions of release. Smith's office has challenged those conditions over Trump's false claims that FBI agents were prepared to kill him when they were carrying out a search warrant at his Mar-a-Lago estate in 2022. They, of course, were not. The tense exchange came as the prosecutor was arguing Judge Cannon should bar Trump from making more inflammatory statements about FBI agents who worked on the investigation for their safety. The attorney later apologized and said he did not mean to come across as unprofessional. At the same time, Judge Cannon suggested she is skeptical of the prosecutor's argument that Trump's comments could lead to violence by his supporters. In the end, Judge Cannon, who was appointed by Trump, did not issue a ruling on the prosecutor's request for a gag order. Instead, she gave both sides until tomorrow now to file additional evidence for her to consider. So, Joe, it does appear in this case, Judge Cannon going out of her way to make the case that there's no threat to FBI agents. We don't need this gag order, as if we haven't watched what Donald Trump can unleash when he wants to.
Well, it's just simply outrageous. And she makes one outrageous comment after another, one outrageous ruling after another. She's already been rebuked in an earlier situation by the 11th Circuit for shilling for Donald Trump. And Elise Jordan, she had two judges come to her asking her to step off the case. Let me tell you something, that just doesn't happen. And when it does, when you have two judges coming to you saying you need to step off the case, you step off the case if you're interested in what your reputation is going to be among, other judges, the judicial system, those who revere the rule of law. She just doesn't really care. She from the outside, she is doing everything she can do to play into her critics' view that she is little more than a hack for Donald Trump.
Well, it's a very Trumpian rejection of norms to not step aside, to say, oh, I'm going to stay in this case that really I should recuse myself. I don't have the level of expertise, the experience being on the court that long, or given all the nature of the classified documents and the time that's going to take to process. It really is unbelievable that just nothing is going to happen on this case until well after the election. And I know that sometimes the wheels of justice can move slowly, but you would have thought there would have been a little bit more urgency given the state of democracy and the implications that this case has.
Well, I mean, and Willie, when she even puts out there that the jury instructions can basically be whatever Donald Trump's view of the law should be for him, is just yet one other example. But just, again, it's sort of a real life moment to look at on how disconnected she purposefully is from reality, is when she says that this man's threats can't impact other people's lives, when this man's threats and his words have led to Nancy Pelosi's husband being bludgeoned nearly to death in his home, has led to people melting pipe bombs. It's led to countless death threats, and people have had to get round-the-clock security. I mean, what she's saying is a lie. She knows that what she's saying is a lie, and yet she says it anyway from a position of a federal bench, saying that Donald Trump's threats can't cause any violence or threats of violence. Yeah, I mean, read the newspapers. That's a lie on its face. In fact, you could go to another judge, probably in that same judicial district, and they would take judicial notice of the fact that Donald Trump's threats often lead to violence or threats of violence.
Yeah, it's not speculation. We've watched it happen, and you just laid out all the cases in which it has happened. And that prosecutor from the special counsel's office said to Judge Cannon, urging her to act now on this gag order and not to, quote, wait for tragedy to strike. And she said, well, you've got to establish some actual connection between A and B, which I think you just did. So, Ryan Riley, as Elise points out, this has been slow walk. Donald Trump is getting everything he wanted out of this case, which is we're not even close to a trial here. What is the timeline? What is the schedule as we move forward on this really important case?
Yeah, I think you really saw the tensions bubbling up there. I think, coming up above the surface there, because I think prosecutors are just really frustrated with how the judge is handling this. And, in their view, this hearing wasn't even necessary. This was something that could have been settled in papers. It was settled just with court filings in the Judge Chutkan case that's now pending before the Supreme Court here in the District of Columbia, when there was this motion to toss these cases, saying that the special counsel was not legitimate. That was something that the judge just ruled on. She didn't need to have oral arguments. So, Judge Cannon hasn't really had these experiences that a lot of these judges, including the Judge Chutkan here, has, having her home doxed, right? There was a swatting of her home after she made some rulings that were disfavorable to Donald Trump. Judge Cannon, of course, hasn't had that experience because she's always been almost all the time in favor of Donald Trump. And in fact, even before she was assigned to this case, chose a direction that ultimately got overturned by the federal appeals court above her. So that hasn't been something that she's independently had to experience. But now we're entering what is going to be the third day of these hearings that started on Friday. Looking at some more of the arguments in this case, Donald Trump's team is going to be arguing about documents that came from his lawyer and what is going to be introduced in being able to introduce a trial. But the thing is that we don't even know when that trial is going to happen. There's just really no timeline on when this is going to take place in the classified documents case, despite the fact that this was brought so long ago now. Remember, it was brought before the January 6th case that came about in August of last year. So this is really a case that we found out about after the raid of Mar-a-Lago, which is coming up on almost 2 years ago. That was August of 2022 when that happened. And immediately after that, just to speak to that threat that you were mentioning there, an individual who was at the Capitol on January 6th, was on the grounds of the Capitol on January 6th, then went and shot up an FBI facility after the rhetoric that was out there about the search of Mar-a-Lago. So there really just is a real threat that we see over and over again against individuals across Donald Trump.
Some of those FBI agents at Mar-a-Lago executing the legal search warrant also were doxxed as well. All this while we wait for the Supreme Court to rule on presidential immunity any day now. NBC News Justice correspondent Ryan Riley. Ryan, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Hey there, MSNBC fans. I'm Luke Russert, and be sure to join me, Rachel Maddow, Jen Psaki, Lawrence O'Donnell, Steve Kornacki, Joy Reid, and many more September 7th in Brooklyn. MSNBC Live Democracy 2024. Click on the link for ticket information. We will see you there.